2023 has got to be one of the greatest years in music so far. So, naturally, only two albums were good enough this year to make it onto my list. In all seriousness, though, I've been kind of lacking in motivation to listen to 2023 music. Like, last year I listened to 42 2022 releases. This year, I only heard 31 2023 releases. That's honestly not the worst thing in the world, I guess. I don't know. I just haven't been feeling the same drive this year like I did last year. If I even had a drive last year. But you know what? Why not just start off this video by listing off some albums that I haven't heard this year, and we'll see if I ever listen to them. Okay, let's see. Sufjan Stevens released another highly acclaimed album this year. Billy Woods had a pretty killer year with both Maps and We Buy Diabetic Test Strips. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard released a couple of stuff this year. I believe I heard some of the Silver Cord at my local record store, so that's kind of neat. Okay, what else? Swans released a pretty acclaimed album this year. Slow Dive, Jeff Rosenstock, Danny Brown, Mitski _, Jane Remover, Anohi, Reverend Christian, Michael Hader, Carly Rae Jepsen, Lana Del Rey, Squid, even Peter Gabriel joined in on the action this year. Taylor Swift released two albums that already exist in some form again this year. Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign didn't drop this year. And I could honestly give less of crap. Tom McDonald and Adam Calhoun.
I read it, then shed it, then shed it, then read it, and shed it, and read it.
There's probably some others that I'm forgetting. Let me know what your favorite album this year was in the comments below. I'd really like to know. Okay, but let's now talk about some of the releases that I did listen to this year. Okay, so Lancome released False Lancome. I really enjoyed that. Reminded me of this year for some reason. Enjoy released a pretty enjoyable album with Exploited. Sprain released a cool album and then immediately broke up. Dawn Rising and Reeling released an album under Vulgar Effect this year. That was pretty interesting. Also, Reeling released an album this year. I didn't hear it yet, but it's supposedly pretty good. Model Actress is Gay Gillet Band. That's a joke, but there are similarities. One of them is that they're both great. Abrixian released an album that's too freaking long. World's End Girlfriend released an album that's too freaking long. Sleep Token. I didn't like it. Oh yeah, and Feeble Little Horse released a pretty awesome album with Girl with Fish. Alright, list time. Number 9, Urap AA by George Clanton. Now, I haven't really listened to any of Clanton's stuff in the past. I haven't heard Slide, which appears to be his most critically acclaimed album so far. But I decided to check out this new album based on the fact that he is supposedly one of the most talked about figures in the chillwave scene, and that this new album supposedly takes on a baggy vibe, and wow, this is amazing. Whether it's the opening track, Everything I Want, that just starts down with a bang, I've Been Young, which is a contender for my favorite song of the year, or the ethereal closing track, For You I Will, with Hatchie on guest vocals. Everything about this album is just banger after banger for the most part, and it perfectly captures the aesthetic that it's going for. What I'm saying is that this album is very much indebted to the music of the 90s, and seeing as the 90s is my favorite decade of music, well, that's pretty much a guaranteed win in my book, but even despite that, this album is a blast to listen to. Definitely don't miss out on it. Number 8, But Here We Are by Foo Fighters. So, I imagine most of y'all are familiar with the Foo Fighters by now. Many of their songs have become rock radio staples at this point, and I sincerely hope that the singles off of this new album will become rock radio staples as well, because holy crap, this album is so awesome. I'll admit that I'm not necessarily the biggest Foo Fighters fan. I've enjoyed a lot of their singles as well as a handful of deep cuts. I love Everlong. But man, I was not expecting this album to hit me in the feels. Part of that is because of the context behind this album. Longtime drummer with the band, Taylor Hawkins, and Dave Grohl's mother both tragically passed away last year, which led to Dave writing perhaps his most emotional material yet. Whether it's the opening track Rescued, which again just begs to be played on the radio, the lovely duet between Dave and his daughter on Show Me How, or the 10-minute long The Teacher, pretty much every song on here is just stunning and breathtaking. I imagine if you're a huge Foo Fighters fan, chances are you've already heard this album, but if you're more of a casual fan, I would definitely recommend you checking this out. It's definitely my favorite Foo Fighters album that I've heard so far, and a worthy contender for my top 9 of this year. Number 7, Thieves Dismay by Anolayak T-Stone.
Celestial bodies have been misplaced.
Now, I have a feeling that most of y'all don't even know who this artist is, so allow me to elaborate a little bit more with this one. Anolayak T-Stone is a New York-based artist who has been a part of a couple of equally unheard of bands like Sun-Colored Chair and Trampoline Jetstream. They came to my attention in 2021 when someone lauded their, at the time, newest album, Manic Manipulator, and I was instantly hooked by its mesmerizing songs and melodies and sounds. Fast forward this year to May, or April, I forgot when, and they surprise dropped a new album, and man is it so great. It feels like a continuation of where Manic Manipulator ended and leans more into the hypnagogic pop side of things. And I think it works surprisingly well. It does a really great job at setting this very bizarre, very weird atmosphere. It might not be as consistent or as hooky as Manic Manipulator, but I still had a really fun time with this album. Like, I spun the heck out of it back in late spring, early summer of this year. Highlights for me include the title track, Saturnine, Disguise, and Victory Lap 2. If you haven't checked out this artist, I'd say start with Manic Manipulator because that album is better in my opinion. But definitely give this one a listen afterwards. And this part is directed at me specifically. Listen to their other albums. Number 6, Scaring the Hose by JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown.
Like NASCAR, nigga, you bet not go. But you better get your mind right, boy.
So, like clockwork, I didn't listen to as much new hip-hop as I could have this year if my spiel at the top was any indication. But, you know what? As cliche as this sounds, I'm glad that I at least checked out Scaring the Hose. Both JPEG and Danny just sound like they're having a blast creating these weirdo experimental songs with wacky beats and odd lyrics, whether it's the title track, Perfect, Lean Beef Patty, or, here's a hot take, closing track where you get your coke from. I surprisingly love that song a whole lot for some odd reason, but yeah, all these songs are just bangers, and if these two ever decide to collaborate again, I wouldn't be against it at all. Even if I honestly don't like the title of the project, like, seriously, Scaring the Hose? Don't you think there was a better name for the project? The music on here is so great that I honestly don't care that much. It's a certified banger, a very odd banger, but a banger nonetheless. Number 5, This Stupid World by Yola Tengo. Man, did Yola Tengo really knock it out of the park this year. While I haven't really caught up to date with what they've been doing with their more recent albums, after hearing This Stupid World, I have a feeling that they still pretty much got it in them. I will admit part of my admiration for this album was that I saw them perform live back in March of this year, and they played most of the songs off of this album, and I was very impressed, and you know what? They still sound great even on the studio version. Some of my favorites include the krautrock rock influenced opening tracks, Sinatra's Drive Breakdown, the rocking Fallout, the noisy title track, or the serene Celestine and Miles Away. What I also love about this album is how concise it is. Now, don't get me wrong, I love albums like I Am Not Afraid of You, but they can feel long-winded at points. I don't really have a problem with This Stupid World with it only being 9 tracks long at under 50 minutes. While not my favorite Yola Tengo album, I do still very much love it. To all the Yola Tengo fans, or even the more casual fans, don't miss out on this one. Number 4, Carousel by Violet Pony.
Studying every reflection. Maybe.
What? Well, why are you looking at me like that? Okay, I should probably explain myself. I've been listening to Violet Pony's music as early as late January of 2021 when I checked out her 2019 album, Love Letters Colorless, and then later that same year, her newest album at the time, Cutie Marks, unexpectedly reached number 1 on the 2021 charts on Radio Music, which naturally caused a lot of music nerds to get super pissy about it because you, My Little Pony, or something like that. I don't know about you, but I think those people are super close-minded. But anyways, yeah, not wanting to brag, but I was loving Violet Pony before it was cool. Love her. Or uncool. I don't know. While I haven't gone through her back catalog much, I was able to keep up with the current album releases with 2022's Fish Whisperer and finally this year's Carousel. And man, of her blowing up on Radio Music era of music, Carousel might be my favorite of the 3. Here, Violet gets a lot more dark and experimental with her music, especially in the second half, and it's very cool to hear. Some of my favorites on here include the new Jack Swing influenced Bro Hoof, the 8-minute long Hush, and the stunning closing track Creek Flow. I know there are some people who can't fathom the idea of listening to music inspired by My Little Pony of all things, but I'd say that if you're open enough, definitely give this one a spin. Number 3, The Gray In Between by Jerome's Dream. Well, can't say I was expecting this release to end up so high on my list. For one thing, it's Screamo, and while I admittedly haven't really heard a lot of Screamo, the genre itself feels a bit intimidating to me. Why I don't know, but yeah. Additionally, I haven't heard anything about this album outside of a review here and a friend's talking about it there, so I wasn't sure what to expect. What I was not expecting was for one of the most intense albums I've heard all year to enter my top 3 releases of the year. It's quite stunning at how much intensity is packed into its short running time of 25 minutes. Every track is crazy amazing, and even the piano interludes add some additional flavor to the album. Some of my favorite cuts include AAEEAA, South by Isolation, and On Holiday with Infinity. I'm not sure if this was the best Screamo album to get me into the genre, but what I do know is that this is a quality release, and I could definitely recommend it to anyone who is interested. Number 2, Today I Laid Down by Black Market Cart. So, this one's going to be very hard to talk about because, well, the circumstances surrounding this artist was just so tragic and heartbreaking. Black Market Cart had aspirations. They wanted to make more music, and they even wanted to start a band, but now they won't be able to. Today I Laid Down is a snapshot of what could have been a very fruitful discography from Black Market Cart. It may be only 6 tracks at around 20 minutes, but what this project lacks in quantity more than makes up for it in its sheer emotional depth. The music on display here is so quaint, and everything is just laid out there. It's not wallowing in its own self-pity, it's just acknowledging that things are rough for them, and I have a feeling that this will become a very relatable project for so many people out there. To those who are struggling, please know that there are people out there who care for you and feel as though you make the world a better place. And to Black Market Cart, thank you for creating such an emotionally potent and extremely amazing project. I hope you rest in peace. Okay, so that was quite a lot, but before I get to my number 1 spot, I want to briefly mention an honorable mention. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't you already give off a bunch of honorable mentions before the list started? To that I say, yeah, but I say this as an honorable mention because it was going to be on the list, but I kind of lacked the drive to re-listen to the album to make this video, so I'm putting it here just because. I am, of course, talking about the new Black Country New Road live album, Live at Bush Hall. I actually rated this very highly when it first dropped. I even go so far as to say it's my favorite Black Country New Road album, which is kind of a hot take, but, you know, whatever. But, like I said, I just don't have the drive to re-listen to it at the moment, which might be a sign of some of my overall opinion of the album dwindling, but yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say about it, but I think this brings me very nicely into my number 1 spot. Number 1, After the Night by Paranol. So, up until this point, everything in this video has been scripted. I wrote a script for everything up until this point. I even wrote a script for the Black Market Cart entry, but for this album, I wanted to do it just unscripted because this album is so stunning that I feel like if I try to put it into words, like on a script or whatever, that it wouldn't really do itself justice. But let me just put it simply. After the Night is Paranol's crowning achievement. I've been following this person since 2021 with their album To See the Next Part of the Dream, and I was amazed by it, but I was even more amazed by the split they did with 2 other artists in 2021, Downfall of the Neon Youth. Their songs and the other people's songs were just the best of the best, and I was very much looking forward to seeing what they would do next. And this year, Paranol not only released a pretty quality follow-up to See the Next Part of the Dream with After the Magic, they also released a stunning live album with After the Night. And I don't know, this is just full of so much passion and energy. And all in all, I'm just wowed by everyone's performances. Most of the songs were on To See the Next Part of the Dream, with a couple of songs that appeared on After the Magic and a non-album single. But even though I've already heard most of these songs, they still feel fresh and potent and just everything that I want out of an artist like Paranol. I especially need to shout out the nearly 50-minute long closing track, Into the Endless Night, which just goes in so many different directions. It's quite nuts. I've seen a lot of people compare this to Fishman's 98-12-28, and I feel like these comparisons are warranted because, you know, both projects end with a 45-minute rendition of one of their songs, and both of them just go through several different journeys, and it's just so crazy to me that he thought that he would be shunned for not being a real musician or whatever. But here I think he proves that you don't have to be a quote-unquote real musician to make great music. All you need is just passion and drive and energy in order to make something as amazing as To See the Next Part of the Dream, or After the Magic, or in this case After the Night. It's quite the stunning piece of work, and I can't wait to see what he would do next. And even if they quit music, which I doubt they will, I think they'll leave behind a great discography and an inspiring discography, and I for one am very proud of Paranol with this. Anyways, that was my list. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I have one more video planned for the end of this year, so I hope you'll stick around to see what it is. But for now, this has been Kable, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.